On this episode of Turning Point Tactics, we're doing the Metawatch. The date today is Monday, the 8th of September. I'm going to talk about the last week of events in the UK, give a bit of a rundown of what happened. There's quite a few events actually. Talk about the upcoming UK events over the next couple of weeks, do some wider win rate discussion, and then talk about overperforming teams, underperforming teams. And then if you're a subscriber to the channel, hang around because at the end there's going to be a tactical tip for you. So thank you for subscribing. And for the patrons, I'm going to answer a patron priority question. So with all that said, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Killteam 40k YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm here to help give you the tips and tricks that elevate every part of your Killteam experience. So no matter if you're a casual or a competitive player, there should be something here for you. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there's a few ways you can go about doing so. You can join the Patreon, where you get access to members only Discord, patron priority questions, early access to content, exclusive content, and tournament awards. Or if you find yourself buying Killteam goodies or hobby supplies, you can use one of our affiliate links in the description below, or discount codes with Crossfire Games and GG Prints. We're always keen to hear your thoughts and feedback, so don't leave that comment box empty. Let us know what you think. Once again, thanks for your support, and with all that said, let's get into it. Okay, so first up, we're doing the UK events recap. So it has been a busy weekend in the UK. There were 7 events. So there was a doubles event, a teams event, and I believe 5 singles events that I have found. If I have missed your event, then please let me know. Link the BCP description down in the description below. Tell me what the first, second, and third place was and that sort of thing, and I'll check it out, and hopefully I'll review it on next week's Metawatch video. So I'm trying to get all of the communities covered as best I can. But I'm one-man band at the moment, so I'm just trying to find what I can on BCP, and hopefully I've found all the tournaments that have been going on. As you can probably hear, I do have a cold. I apologise, so it's probably not quite the soothing voice that you're used to from Turning Point Tactics. So let's get into the UK events recap though, because I know everyone's interested to know what's been going on. So firstly, we had a doubles event in Leicester. So the main thing was a 3-round doubles event, and I'll just focus on the winning team because that's probably what most people are most interested in. And that was Kenny Meganson with his Deathcore and Ryan Oxspring with his Heirotek Circle. So it's interesting to see a Deathcore player at the top of the event there. But I do believe they have some play into them, right? So, you know, I think Deathcore at the moment, with 14 bodies, with the sort of saturate, ceaseless, accurate, like all the various things that they can get, I do feel they can take down some of the more like elite favoured teams if you can just sort of pile activations of damage into each one. So I'll be interested to know what he was running there. I think interestingly, the new tac ops are probably going to be quite good for Deathcore. Going with like security and being able to take like Envoy and this sort of thing, or Martyr and just throw troopers onto objectives that you're not too fussed about. I mean, Martyr is very thematic for the team. But also Envoy is probably pretty strong with 14 bodies. You have enough sort of depth of people to be able to run someone forward at the end of a turning point and score that. Heirotek Circle being the second one on the team, it makes perfect sense. We know Heirotek Circle is strong. They've really enjoyed Approved Ops 2024. I'm interested to see how they're going to transition to Approved Ops 2025. So as a security and recon team, they might struggle a little bit in aspects. So they could do things like Martyr. I'm not personally a fan. Envoy could be difficult, although potentially with some sneaky teleport shenanigans. Also, there's an option to move someone particularly far forwards when you're not necessarily expecting it. But then, you know, is that what you want, or are you going to expose potentially someone? That's probably a bit map dependent. Apologies. So I think they might get locked into like a retrieval kind of game plan. So that's where you essentially have to tap each of the objectives and you start carrying a token once you've done so. I can see that working pretty well for them. Flank, I think, could be difficult. There are only 2 APL for the condition for checking if they are securing it or not. You have to declare flank at the start of the turning point. So your opponent knows what you're trying to do. Maybe that baits people forwards and into you, and so you can have a bit of to and fro. And I definitely don't think they want to be doing scouting movements. I think that's a good tackle for them at all. So for me, it feels like they're probably going to be a retrieval team, and maybe that's their best option going into Approved Ops 2025. But congratulations to Kenny Meganson and Ryan Oxspring for their performance running Deathcore and Heirotek Circle. Next, there was a teams event in Sheffield, and the winning team had Declan Rhodes running Inquisition, Ryan Worthington running Vespid, we talked about him previously as Vespid, and Tom Shaw running Nemesis Claw, who we've also talked about previously. In fact, I think we've talked about all three of these as they are quite consistent top level performers. So it kind of makes sense that when they teamed up as a trio, were able to do so well. Let's talk about Inquisition, because they're an interesting team, and I think I've seen some really interesting techniques now with Inquisition. We took them to WTC. I thought they were a great pick for WTC. They're really versatile into a whole bunch of enemy teams, and they have such a strong skill set. And going into the Approved Ops 2025, having access to any of the TAC Ops means that they're actually really hard to predict as to what they're going to do. Because having, for instance, route as an option is pretty cool. You know, they could also, if they want to, go with like a Steel Intelligence game plan, although I think maybe people are overrating Steel Intelligence a little bit, in my opinion, unless you're a team that has sort of free pickups. But I think maybe it's not as good as people think, just a personal opinion. But then having Envoy with the amount of people that you have is pretty good. So yeah, I don't know. I think Inquisition are going to be a strong place, right? With access to like any of these TAC Ops, they have so much flexibility just to adjust between editions. The new maps are a little bit more shooting friendly, I believe. So I think again on the new maps front, they're going to enjoy that. So I can see Inquisition going into Approved Ops 2025 in a strong place. And congratulations Declan for piloting them so well during the teams event. Obviously, Ryan Worthington, we know he's a great player with his Vespid. Another team that I think is going to have a massive glow up when it comes to Approved Ops 2025. So they're a Seek and Destroy and Recon team, right? So suddenly getting access to Dominate if you want to play a sort of a slower game and shoot people from distances, or Rout if you want to play more aggressive and useful against those sort of Horde teams potentially, if you know you're going to be able to kill them quite effectively. That sounds like a pretty good game plan. Against elites, you can potentially run a flank game plan and force them to come to you. And then when you're averaging about 10 damage per shot with your sort of lethal 5, saturate, double balanced shooting, you're in a good place to potentially pick up like quite a few kills. I've seen this now run quite a lot where people are dropping the flamer. I think that's probably the right call most of the time, because you just get more consistent damage out with the piercing 1 neutron guns. So I think Vespid are going into Approved Ops 2025 in a good place, far better than they were last time. And I'm interested to see how that pans out over the next sort of few iterations. They're one of the few teams that I think can actually kill the Deathwatch Aegis Marine, essentially via dev wounds, right? Because they can just put enough dev wounds into him. And if you get 3 warriors shooting an Aegis Marine, he averagely goes down like 80% of the time or something. So yeah, pretty interesting to see Vespid. I think they're going to be doing well. Congratulations to Ryan on his performance with them. And then Tom Shaw running Nemesis Claw. Again, like I'm not surprised to see Tom in a winning team format here, and running Nemesis Claw, a team that he's practiced a lot with. So Nemesis Claw themselves, so they're Seek and Destroy and Infiltrate, right? And both of those TAC Ops, I think, are significantly better for an elite team now than they were previously. The difficulty I think that you're gonna have is when you play the mirror matches, I think potentially, although Nemesis Claw I think have better play into that than most. So if you're playing, for instance, Dominate as Nemesis Claw, which I think they'll like quite a lot of the time, because it means that if you're on a slow tempo crit op, which, you know, that I've sort of described this in crit op videos, some are fast tempo, some are slow tempo. If you're a Nemesis Claw and you're on a slow tempo game, previously that meant that you had to basically either give up on crit op or give up on kill op. TAC op, and you couldn't really score both, right? Whereas now with Dominate being an option, if you're in a slow tempo game, you can essentially go, all right, well, I'm going to get crit op slowly, and then I'm going to score all my TAC op in the last 2 turning points, and I'm actually okay with that, right? And if someone gives me an easy shot turn 1 or turn 2, I'll take it, but I'm not like overly fussed about trying to expose myself too much too early on. So really interesting, I think, for them to be able to take this into the next edition. Steel Intelligence is a good option. I just think that most of the time though, like I think people talk about Steel Intelligence, like, oh, you could take Steel Intelligence as Nemesis Claw. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like you could also just have Rout and just kill the guy and just kill 2 people. And then that's kill up as well at the same time, rather than kill 1 guy, pick up his token, score 1 point, hope to hold the token until the end of the game, score your 2nd point. It's like, I'd just rather get around to killing people. You know, particularly with the sort of the pin pom balls that they can do, where you can charge someone, fight, move an extra 3 inches, fight. That's like their optimal play. That's killing 2 people, which is better for your kill op, and he's going to score you 2 points of route. And then if he dies, he dies. But he's probably in a better place where you don't really care anymore too much. Whereas wasting your APL, not killing things as Nemesis Claw, feels like a mistake to me. Might be wrong, but I think conversely, they also play a really good dominate game. If you can't shoot into combat and deal with them very well, then I think they're going to charge you, multi-charge if they can, tie you up with chain snares, and then just slowly eat you one at a time, hiding in melee, such that they can stack those dominate tokens and just make it really, really hard for you to be able to chew through them. So congratulations to Tom Shaw, Ryan Worthington, Declan Rose for amazing team performance there. I think those are 3 teams that I believe going to the new edition are only going to be going into a better, stronger position. So one to watch definitely for the next few events coming up. Okay, so those are the team events. We're into the singles events now. So we have the kill zone on target 3. I'll just go through the top 3 placings, just try and keep it nice and quick. So Sam Winter, I believe that's how it's pronounced, with his Blades of Khaine, came first. Undefeated, 3 wins. Nice to see Blades of Khaine at the top. I mean, we'll talk about the wider win rates in a second, and the same sort of lessons, in my opinion, that can be applied to the Inquisition tac ops, right? Is we know Blades of Khaine are going to have access to all those tac ops that they need to have. So I expect them to do really well going into the new edition, particularly now that some of the Seek and Destroy tac ops are better for them. So for instance, Route is far better than it was previously, in my opinion, because you can score both points, and then if you die, you're fine, rather than getting like overrun where you score 1 point and have to sort of survive, but they're always quite fragile. So unless you could like return to conceal with some of their techniques or hide behind somewhere, it was a little bit difficult to do. So they sort of got pushed into a recon game plan. That being said, I think they're great for recon as well, because retrieval, I think, is a fantastic option for them if they want to run it. Flank can be really good with 3 APL and that movement potential to get across the board. I could see there being quite a few Banshees in your half, killing people and contesting for flank, and that's pretty scary, right? So I think flank's good for them. I think overrun's got options. I think retrieval is good as well. So predicting what this team's going to take against you is going to be really difficult, and you have to try and like play the counter tackle game really hard, I think, personally. And then in second place is Samuel Griffiths with his Mandrakes. So Mandrakes, I think I've been underrating them, and I sort of saw someone play them really well, and I think they're not an easy team to play, but when you see them played well, I think you go, there is definitely stuff there, right? Like, I think what is underrated significantly is a sort of creeping horror 3-inch dash, followed by a ignore all terrain 9-inch charge for a 10-inch threat range, essentially giving you a 13-inch threat range charge is nuts, right? Like, that is absolutely insane when it comes to the sort of the threat potential that you have. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how they get on in the new edition. Clearly they have access to the sort of the infiltrate options. Maybe Steel Intelligence is good for them there, but I'm just a bit worried as a 2 APL team. Picking up tokens just feels like a lot of wasted action economy, where you probably just want to be like killing more stuff. Maybe you can kill a lot of stuff and then just last turning point pick all the tokens up. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure what tac op's best for them. I think retrieval might be really good, because my logic here is I'm just thinking about how much APL you want to spend to score, right? Like, and then being able to essentially go, right, I can kind of ignore tac op, focus on using my 2 APL to kill you, and then just spend a couple of wasted activations moving on to points and picking up the retrieval item is pretty good. Particularly with the fact that they can do it with someone that can sort of teleport around and still be impactful potentially, like if they need to. So you can move a very long way to suddenly then retrieve. Mandrakes doing great as per usual. And then George White coming in third with 2 wins and a draw with Blooded. So Blooded, I think they've been perfectly balanced the whole time. I think they're going to sort of phase out of this edition in November time, having had a great time. I think they're going to love the Seek and Destroy changes for between now and then. And if people are playing them at casual tournaments and sort of narrative events in the future, I think they're going to really enjoy that in Pre-Top 2025. Because I think realistically, things like Rout is exactly what you want to do. You want to push forward, you want to kill stuff. They can do that pretty well. And I think they're going to just enjoy that sort of. I mean, most Blooded players want to do that. Like that feels right to them. So I think they're going to have great fun. So congratulations to Sam Winter for his first place, Sam Griffith for his second, and George White for his third. Let's talk about Killteam 2. So obviously this is from the north of the UK, up in Scotland. I believe it was in Edinburgh. And it's good to see that the Scottish scene is growing. I know there's quite a few people that are trying to get around and make it work up there. So in first place with their Raveners is Gordon Bryden, going undefeated with 3 wins. So Raveners, again, fantastic team. I think they have a lot of play on certain missions that they quite like. And I've said this multiple times. They quite like certain missions, certain maps, and it does feel like you're playing like an S tier team when you get these combos. But let's talk about tac ops, right? So they're Seek and Destroy and they Infiltrate. We knew previously that they sort of struggled on those tac ops. Most of the time I saw them being played successfully was with Implant, and they were sort of hoping for a good opportunity for like a charge, a fight but not kill to hide in melee on TP2 to then get them the sort of the Implant and then like the second point as well. Whereas now, obviously that's not an option to them, but they have other options, and I think Dominate for them is really good, like potentially really, really good, because if you're exposed, if you're near the tunnel, they can potentially on TP3 come out, get some kills, stack the Dominate tokens that they need, and then disappear later on, and then they can at that point remove these tokens to sort of reduce the risk of them losing those models. And then on TP4, well, they're going to bring out as many of these big bugs as they can and just try and overwhelm you, really, and hope to get 3 kills, which is actually pretty realistic for them. So yeah, a late game push from Raveners is kind of terrifying, and I can see them doing that and doing quite well. The big baddie for them though is probably Deathwatch, because if you take Dominate against Deathwatch, you can't max. Maybe you don't care. I guess realistically, if you kill all 5 Deathwatch, you're going to get 6 on kill up, and that's pretty good. But it's a tough ask to try and kill all 6 Deathwatch. Not saying it's impossible, but you might struggle in aspects. So you have to then play a different tac op into them, which like Rout maybe if you can guarantee the kill against someone within 6 inches. That could be good, but it feels very risky, because if you whiff and don't kill the Deathwatch that's in their deployment zone, and bearing in mind that the Deathwatch probably want to be coming towards you to get the shield that slays. So Rout, I don't think Rout works against them. I'm not 100% sure in Dominate. So now you're sort of being pushed into the infiltrate stuff. So maybe Steal Intelligence, but again, like there's only 5 of them, so you need to be trying to like kill them early to get the max on that. Plant Devices, I don't know about Plant Devices. I feel like, I just feel like that might not work out. I mean, your Prime is probably a great candidate to steal an early sort of home objective plant device if you wanted to, but you're probably going to lose him as a result, and losing your Prime for 3 VP, like, is that worth it? I don't know. That's going to be hard for me to justify if that's worth it or not. So, not 100% sure. Like, I think tac ops for them into that matchup is going to be difficult. So you're probably going to have to focus on kill up and crit up. So as I said, the sort of what feels like a map and mission dependent team, like into Deathwatch, which is going to be everywhere, I think you're going to feel that variance where you go into certain matchups and you're like, right, I'm on loot. This is the one. I've got this absolutely nailed. And then on the next mission, you might be into like Secure or something, and you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I can get this at all. So that's an example. And maybe Secure is not too bad for them actually, but versus Deathwatch. But we'll see. Right, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so congratulations to Gordon Bryant for taking them with 3 wins. Fraser Hogg came in second place with a loss and 2 wins with his Brew Brothers. So great to see Brew Brothers doing well. I think they're a team that's going to do fantastic on the new TAC Ops, right? So Envoy for their security TAC Ops looks pretty good to me. They also have like access to Plant Banner if you have the opportunity to use Pervasive to be able to get up to a high point, which you don't think your opponent can reach, to then potentially sit someone there all game and just sit on your banner. Is an option. I think it's the best option, but it's an option. And then for the sort of surveillance stuff, I think you can potentially get your models out there to be able to surveil against some teams if you wanted to. Steal intelligence maybe, but I think most of the time you're just going to be running your Envoy. And so I think learning to counter Envoy is going to be a big part of this edition, because your opponent's going to want to, so they have to end wholly within your territory, right? So this is the kind of the big bit. The reason why I think Brew Brothers are so good with it is they can do the out of activation dash, right? So they can be essentially, well, it'll be 11 inches for the 25 mil base, 11 inches from the center line, which is a bit far. Like for you to be able to go and kill them, it's a bit far. Whereas if you're 9 inches away, it have to be 8 inches away because you have to be wholly within. So if you have to be 8 inches away, then like you've got a chance to maybe reach them. 11 inches, I don't think you're getting that. Like you're talking about in their deployment zone. So you have to be playing very aggressive to be able to reach them to kill their Envoy. And I just don't see that being an easy thing to achieve. Maybe on turning points 3 and 4, it gets a little bit easier because of sort of the freebie little grub guys that are hiding at the back and then sprint forwards to achieve these things. Are going to be gone by then, and I think actually interestingly, like maybe on turning point 2 they use like the Melter, because you can hold the Melter a long way back. He wants to be your last model to activate anyway, so his last activation it will be like a move, well, dash, move, dash, shoot, and score you 2 for Envoy, and then then he's sort of spent. If you win initiative, cool, he's off shooting again. And if you don't win initiative, then he's like dead, but you don't care at that point. He's no longer your Envoy. That's someone else's job. And so now they're going to kill the Melter without killing your Envoy as their first activation, or they leave the Melter alive to shoot someone else. So yeah, I think Brew Brothers is going to be a good place. I think they're going to score targets really well. I think a lot of the crit ops are favourable for Horde teams. So I think Fraser Hogg going 1 loss and 2 wins. I think we're going to see him doing that, if not better, in future, is my prediction. Now, I'm going to butcher this, but I assume it's Bartosz, or Bartosz, with his Goremongers. I'm going to say Bart. Bart with his Goremongers, not the Bart that I know, a different Bart, but has gone 2 wins and a loss with his Goremongers. So, bucking the trend a little bit, because Goremongers aren't doing too well on win percentage averages, because of teams that I think like Ravagers that are very, very good at killing them. So but good to see him doing well in third place there at Killteam. So Goremongers are in an interesting position. I think the problem with them is, from like a balance perspective, is I don't know how you balance them for rules where you don't break them in certain ways. So, for instance, if you if you have double shoot, it feels really easy, and you can do reliable 6 damage. It feels really easy to kill Goremongers. They don't like being shot. They don't have a great saving throw. Sure, they can have cease defense saves, if in the right scenario. They don't feel like they're particularly durable when you can shoot twice. If you can only shoot once, they feel like they're impossible. But if you can shoot twice, then suddenly actually these guys can get taken out quite quickly. And then the other issue is they're sort of locked into this very, very melee focused gameplay, which just has a lot of swinginess to it. I've played against Goremonger players. They charge you with Relentless. Somehow they only get a single hit, and then they just die. And you're like, that has screwed your entire game, and it shouldn't have, right? But that's the risk with melee teams, and I just I think that's my concern with Goremongers. So it's good to see that someone's done well with them coming in third place. So congratulations to you guys. We'll push through because I'm slowing down a bit. Next, we have the WGS Killteam event, which was on the Sunday, 7th of September. So this was a 6-player event, so a small event, but first place was David Law running Blades of Khaine. Second place was Simon Anders with Void Dancer Troupe, and third place was Declan Montgomery with Brew Brothers. So Simon Law undefeated, 3 wins of Blades of Khaine. Great to see. I think Blades of Khaine are a fantastic place. We've talked about them already, so congratulations, David, for them. Void Dancer Troupe in second place with 2 wins and a loss. Again, I think Void Dancers, I think they're really good. I think they're sort of phasing out in November. I don't think many will continue to play them at that point. But for the interim, I think they're going to be in a strong place. They've got a good access to attack ops. They're not going to struggle, I don't think, to score, and none of their kits changing. So I think for them, this is good. And Declan Montgomery with his Brew Brothers going 2 wins and a loss. We talked about Brew Brothers. Congratulations to all 3 of you for your great tournament performances. Next, we have Save the Last Dance. In fact, I will talk about Save the Last Dance last because it makes the most sense. Next, we have Duty and Death 2, which was a 14-player tournament. First place is Raveners. It's a 4-round tournament going 3 wins and a single loss. That's piloted by Scott Ernington Basley. Again, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Again, Raveners, I don't have too much more to say. I just think Raveners are a fantastic pick. In second place is Matt Cowabunga Brown with Raveners going 3 wins and a single loss. So again, I think they're enjoying it. And a new edition, they cannot wait. And in third place is Luke Henderson with his Blades of Khaine. So 1 loss, 3 wins. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in third place. Doing really well there. So again, a sort of repetition of teams. I think Raveners are really popular at the moment. I'm seeing them more and more, and I'm seeing more and more consistent performances for them. I think people are figuring out how to make them work, and I think they're going to get stronger. So I would expect to see quite a few Raveners in the new edition, and quite a few Deathwatch. So maybe tournament games will get a bit quicker. We'll see how it goes. Okay, Save the Last Dance. Last makes more sense, right? So just for clarity, this is a special event which was for only teams that were going out of rotation, right? So 16-player event, but you could only play teams going out of rotation, hence why you're not seeing your Sanctifiers, your Raveners, all this sort of stuff. So in first place was Novitiates, being run by Ben Hall Roberts. We know how good Novitiates actually are when piloted correctly. Great to see them doing well. I think a lot of people that have now seen the boogeyman of Blinding Aura are going to be perfectly happy to see this team rotate out, and there's going to be some very sad people to see this team rotate out. But what I'm Ben piloting Novitiates clearly figured out the secret sauce to make them work. Next, in second place, is Alexi with his Blooded, going again undefeated, 3 wins. I love to see it. I think Blooded are in a great place, particularly in that old rotation meta. I think they've got a solid pick. And then in third place, my personal favourite, no bias here, I promise, is Morgan Redshaw with his Phobos strike team. I love my Phobos. I love to see him doing well. I'd be interested to know why he lost his second game. Was it because he didn't have balanced rerolls and shooting? I'll never know, but I'll assume it was, just because it wounds me to this day that Phobos had that taken from them cruelly at the end. But a really cool way, a send off to the edition, right? Save the Last Dance, I think is a great idea. And I think for a lot of people, just as a reminder, there will still be these sort of casual events that go on, and you'll still be able to play the declassified teams when these events are going on. I think it's just the main big events that probably won't do it. Okay, so that is the UK events, right? So that's all last week. So that was a busy week, right? Loads of events, which is awesome to see. And hopefully we continue to see more and more of these events coming out, and more people playing Killteam, right? Because that's kind of what we want. We want more people playing Killteam where possible. I'll do a quick summary of the rest of the events coming up to the end of the month. So next weekend, or is it this weekend? Oh my goodness, it's this weekend. Oh, that's come around quick. So 13th of September, we have the Killteam Summer Shootout Part 2, in Andover. We have the Not Killteam Narrative Duos Day on the 13th of September in Sutton and Ashfield. On the Sunday 14th of September, we have the Deadwood The Great Timber Hunt, that's in Stockport. On Saturday the 20th of September in Dumfries, you have the Dune Hammer Open. On Sunday the 21st of September, you have the Killteam Stoke Operation Oatcake, that's in Stoke-on-Trent. And then on the 27th and 28th of September, you have the London Grand Tournament in, obviously, London, and that's the UKTC event. And on the 27th of September, you have the Not Killteam Into the Tomb World event in Sutton and Ashfield, which is a beginner-focused event on learning the new Tomb World rules. Few things I'm just going to quickly add in because it's, I think, relevant. London Grand Tournament, for everyone aware, they are playing Approved Ops 2025. I don't know about the rest of those tournaments that I have mentioned. I am going to assume that the ones this coming weekend are not, because people don't have the cards, but the ones the following weekend I assume probably will, because the cards will be out, I believe, on the 20th. So people should be able to have them for a week, is what I'm tracking. But the London Grand Tournament is using the new Approved Ops 2025, but they're not using Team World terrain, I assume, because building it in such a short period of time is unlikely. Cool. So for awareness, I'm going to be going to that event for the London Grand Tournament. So hopefully that goes well. I want to try and see how I get on, really. And I don't know if I'll be able to make any of the others. I don't think I can, but maybe we'll see what I can squeeze in. I definitely, sadly, can't make the ones the weekend prior as I'm away. But hopefully you guys can, and now you know about them. As I said, as per usual, in the description below, you can find a link to the tokify.com/Killteam events /pinboard. There it shows you all the events. You just click it, links you straight to the BCP, and you go, yep, I want to buy a ticket, please. Or contact the tournament organizer and get yourself on a waiting list, whoever it needs to be. It might be that they, if you reach out and say, hey, do you have any more tickets available? The tournament organizer goes, actually, I've had so many people do that. I will put, another 4 tables out. I'll put another whatever, and we'll just make the event bigger. So well worth doing. I cannot recommend tournaments enough to people. And I keep saying it every week, but it's worth it. Please go. You'll enjoy it. I promise. You'll have loads of fun. Okay. That is UK events done and dusted. We're now going to move on to wider meta discussion and talk about the win percentages that I think is important. So we'll get the crazy stuff out of the way because it's worth it. So there has been people playing Canoptek Circle and Deathwatch. Canoptek Circle are currently on a 100% win rate. They have only played 3 games. So let's just calm down. But Canoptek Circle are doing well. So the first 3 games out, they're doing well. I think it's impressive that they've actually managed to play those. I assume they're using proxies, or it's someone who's already got the box set potentially. Because if not, that's impressive hobby. I don't know when the box set came out. Is it not next weekend? So again, impressive. Maybe proxies. People learn the rules very quickly, clearly, but pretty good to see that they've got 100% win rate. We'll wait and see how the data spills out with that, right? Because that's one event, one player, and it could be like this Ace or Alexa or Dan Barton running Canoptek Circle or something. You don't know who it is. So it could be one of the world's best players, and they're just out there crushing it. Next up is Deathwatch. Again, hold your horses. They're on a 71% win rate. Hold your horses. They have played 7 games. All right, so it's a good start for the new box set, though. Tomb World, it's a good start, but with only 10 games played between the 2 teams, let's chill. Let's not get too carried away. But that is a great beginning for Deathwatch, because going 5 and 2, I assume this is 2 different players. One going to a 3-round event and one going to a 4-round event, and both having lost a game, I assume. But good to see that they've done well. So probably not undefeated, probably, in either event, I imagine. Or maybe one's undefeated and one's not. Who knows? But yeah, great to see Deathwatch doing well. So those are the crazy bits out of the way, right? And again, I just want 3 games and 7 games before we get too carried away. Not much data. Cool. Let's talk about some of the teams that are doing really well outside of that. The bits I want to focus on. So Blades of Khaine at 58% win rate. I've already kind of talked about the fact that I think they're going to do really well in New Edition. I just think that having access to essentially better tac ops for a lot of their archetypes, or having the flexibility between tac ops is really good. They're probably moving away from beacons a lot of the time. I think a lot of people were playing beacons or implant, I think were the ones that I saw most commonly played. So like those were the ones that I saw. Now you're going to be maybe using that APL more efficiently, and that means they're going to go more killy. My prediction might be wrong. Like, if you're a Blades of Khaine player, are you thinking, okay, I want to use like more of my APL offensively now, or are you trying to think, you know, am I going to do some sort of scouting and movements play? Am I going to try and do some steel intelligence, surveillance? Like, how's your mentality going into this edition? Because it felt a lot like they were doing confirm kill, plant beacons, and maybe implant against elite teams, and they were holding back and being like quite defensive. Is that now changing up? Do you find that you're going to be way more interactive because you need to come forward to score, or are you going to play a completely different game? Like, let me know what you're thinking. Blades of Khaine players, use a comment box. Start talking to me because I'm interested to know what your thoughts are. Next up, Heirotek Circle, 58%. I talked about how I think they're going to be struggling with these new tac ops. My read is that they go retrieval, right? Like that's my read. But what's your thoughts, Heirotek Circle players, right? I'm going to see if I can get Dan Barton on tomorrow to talk about Heirotek Circle and WTC. So I'll see his thoughts. But maybe you guys have got some ideas and you can drop them in the comments and I can then pitch them to him. Or if you have questions, then here's a good time. So if you're a Necron player and you're really interested by Heirotek Circle, Canoptek Circle, and you want to ask Dan Barton, the current world champion and WTC champion, so he's doing pretty well in titles, put it in the description, right? Like put it in the description. And for Patreons, I'll put a question thing up and then I'll ask all the Patreon questions probably. And for YouTube people, I will see what I can ask. So, but it's worth chucking it in there. If I don't get any questions, then it might be yours. 58% Heirotek Circle, doing well. Sanctifiers, also on 58%. And I was trying to think how they're going to adapt to the new meta, right? Because they were kind of playing like Seize Ground, Contain, like Secure Center. Like most of the time I saw them playing those like security tac ops. And I feel like for them, just like Brew Brothers, the lead the procession combined with like a move dash score opportunity for like missionaries or a preacher or whatever, like that like ability to move so far forwards, I think it's gonna be great for Envoy. Like the fact that you can have a missionary that's like essentially in your deployment zone and then yeet him into the opponent's territory is going to be really difficult to counter. The other thing that's like just worthy of note on this, and I'm just going to bring it up now, the fact that we don't have scouting options means that there's less player placed terrain on the tables in general, right? Like I think most of the time, most teams want to use their faction equipment for various reasons. It's useful, and so maybe they were taking like barricades, and then in the equipment step you'd be like, you know what, I'll spend one on some razor wire to block off this access route or whatever. Whereas now you're not necessarily going to be able to do that. So these sort of like flank Envoy, like these sort of tac ops that you want to move forwards much quicker, route as well, kind of makes sense. Like these movement based tac ops where you need to get the distance. But I think that like now is more favourable because of the fact that there's less player placed terrain. So like, or if someone wants to use player placed terrain to deny you, they're gonna have to invest more in it. Like, what's your guys' thoughts on that? Like, are you willing to sacrifice your faction equipment to place more player placed terrain down? Like, is this the time of Gellerpox? Like, are Gellerpox gonna go crazy because they're able to remove some of your equipment choices? You can't use a technique that you used to be able to use, which was using the scouting step to guarantee an equipment choice. And so now there's even less equipment than you had before. Like, is that going to be like, is it their meta? Like, well, they're already on like a 64% win rate, 58 games played, small player base. But are they going to be a menace till the end of November? Like, if everyone's running a Pre-Docs 2025, is this what we expect to see? Like, are their tac ops better now? Like, is Envoy really good for them? In fact, what is their other their other thing? Oh man, I can't remember what the other one is. Security and what? It must be Seek and Destroy, right? I just had an absolute brain fart. I'm assuming it's Seek and Destroy, but I'm now like doubting myself. It can't be Infiltrate, can it? Maybe it can. Now in real time, you're going to watch me actually check Gellerpox Circle's rules, which I would normally do on my phone, but clearly I'm recording, so you have to just hear me muse to myself. Right, Gellerpox infected. They are dun, 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 dun. Security, Seek and Destroy. Yeah, okay. Security, Seek and Destroy. Route, I'm not sure. Dominate on the Hulks. I can see Dominate. I can see Dominate working. Route might be hard, just to be able to get the distance. It depends on map. Depends on map. But then if your opponent like does go into the full like maze of traps and stuff to try and slow you down, then you're gonna be in a difficult position. Envoy. I mean, if they out-activate you, that's difficult. Yeah, maybe they're making Envoy. Or Martyrs. Envoy, Martyrs, Envoy. Yeah. Okay. I think Gellerpox are going to like all these changes. I think Gellerpox might be problematic. Interesting. Gellerpox players, what's your thoughts? Like, I don't play against Gellerpox much. / ever, really. They're not very popular here. Like, only like a few people jumped to them when they were like really busted back in the last edition, and we haven't really seen them have that sort of like community pickup since. So, what's your guys' thoughts on Gellerpox? Because I think they might be sneaky good. Less equipment, less player place terrain. They're able to remove some of that player place terrain. Combine that with the fact that now they're going to be, you know, like I know it's not guaranteed. But yeah, I think that might be good. Like they're gonna get rid of one of your equipment pieces. Okay. Yeah, I think that could be good. I think they Gellerpox sneaky good prediction for a pre-dot 2025. But they're going away in November, so you got World Champs to worry about, and then they're gone. Okay, where did I get to? That was Sanctifiers. I think it'll be fine. I think they're not gonna enjoy the surge of elites. I think a lot of Deathwatch is not good for them because Deathwatch can actually get through their damage reduction. They've got enough oomph, I think, to kill pretty much all of their stuff. So yeah, I think they're going to do really well on Envoy. And then finally, I was just going to talk about Fellgor again because I love talking about Fellgor. I tried to avoid talking about the teams that are sort of rotating out, but ended up getting stuck on Gellerpox because I'm just interested. Like, again, thoughts please. Let me know what you're thinking. Fellgor. Flank looks fantastic for Fellgor, right? I think flanks look really good. Route looks really good for them as well. Dominate looks good too. And Retrieve looks good for them, I think. So I think they got 4 solid tack-up choices. And they're already at a 55% win rate. I think they're better Goremongers. Like, people tell me why I'm wrong. Like, I'm doing the, you know, Fellgor are better Goremongers. Here is my, my stool. Come and argue with me. Tell me why I'm mistaken on this, right? Because I just want to go through the technique in my mind. Is like, again, I'm not a Fellgor player, right? I'm not a Goremonger player, so this is me theory crafting. But like, I think a lot of time people when they play Fellgor, they're like, I need to charge and fight everything. And they often forget that actually the best thing to do is just to charge and do mortal wounds to things repeatedly. And just apply chip damage and never die in your own activation and force your opponent to die or force your opponent to fight you in their activation, and then you die in frenzy, and then that's when you fight. Like, when you're frenzied, you're then fighting and you're doing ideally like 2 hits through. Sometimes you get a crit and they get a crit and you only get 1 hit through, but like you get to do your damage, right? So I think Fellgor are going to be in a good place. I think all the attack ops are getting better. I don't think they loved doing plant beacons prior or anything like that, but the flank looks really good for them. I think they, like, if they're not scoring that, then that's crazy. Route looks really good for them. Dominate looks good. But yeah, I mean, they got 4 great picks. 4 great picks, in my opinion. Okay. Underperforming teams. Talked about Goremongers already. 44%. If you can double sheet, you can pretty much kill them, in my opinion. They're a bit too swingy. I do think the new tack-ups are good for them though, because route, like, they're so fast. Like, if you can't score route with Goremongers, then I don't know what's happening. Like, you should be able to get that distance. The risk is against some of the elite teams is that they're running at you in the opposite direction, and then you're like a melee team. So if all of their guys are like coming at you, then that might be a problem. That's probably the counterplay. So maybe you end up doing something like dominate or some of this. But if you're against a team that doesn't want to run at you or is a slow team, then Goremongers route looks pretty solid. If you want to play positional, you can go with retrieve, I guess. I don't think you ever do scouting movements. Might be wrong, but can't see it myself. So yeah, I think they're going to be doing the Seek and Destroy stuff. And also, like, what Khorne player is going to be like, yeah, I just want to like play positionally and not really get stuck into a fight. I think you're on the wrong team. I'm just saying, like, if that's your mentality, I think you're on the wrong team. You need to be like, 8's my number. I'm always going to be rolling 8 on my dice. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, Goremongers 44%. Exaction down at 43%. And I was thinking, like, what do they need to win more? So I was thinking about their attack ops, right? So their security and Seek and Destroy. Envoy, maybe, if you like significantly outnumber people, but they're kind of slow. And they're going to have the dog, I guess. The dog can run. But they're kind of slow. So you need to be somewhat close to the actual, like, enemy side. So you have to be within 8 inches to be able to move, dash, and achieve it. And then I was thinking, like, with the various like Seek and Destroy stuff, is that good for them? Like, route is actually pretty hard to achieve, I think, for them. Unless you're on like the long board edge, but if you're on like short board edge, like, or some of the Interdark maps, are like, it's a long way to get within 6, right? I don't know if I have the movement to do that on Into the Dark. So like Into the Dark can be rough for them, I think. So yeah, like, is that going to be a problem for them? Weirdly, like, I would have thought Into Dark would have been okay, but maybe like those sort of like short board edge Into Darks can be really tough for Exaction squad. I think they're going to need some buffs. In my opinion, I think Exaction need a buff. I think it needs to be something small though. I think something like 2 use of special ammunition is pretty good. I can just see them going into a lot of Deathwatch and just wanting that bit more oomph against their armor to make Deathwatch actually be scared of them. Because if you're in their half, making the shotguns go down to 3/3 and they only get 1 issue of piercing, then that's not that scary. Although it does finally make a use for the Dev 4 on the sniper, I guess. Interesting. But yeah, them going down to 3/3 damage across the board because you're getting -1 damage is pretty gross. And it means they need to resolve 5 hits to kill a Deathwatch Marine. Yeah, I don't know if you're getting that. Just by the way, for a caveat on this, I see this being talked about. I think it's wrong quite a lot. Demolisher Marine, the guy with the huge hammer, right? Deathwatch huge hammer dude. His rule is that you -1 for the damage of the whole sequence, right? And that happens at the start. And then the shield that slays is when you take damage, you -1 if it's 4 or more. So if you start a melee with like a shield dude, and you've got the hammer man. First, when you start the melee, but like before you roll dice, essentially, his damage becomes 3/3, right? And then you roll dice, he hits you with 3 damage, the shield that slays isn't going to apply. Weirdly, I think it does apply for the Castigator, only for the second part, not the first part, because you can't reduce his stats for the sequence of the fight, but you can reduce the damage that you've taken. I think that's how it works. Anyway. You don't make it 2/2. It's 3/3. That was Exaction. And then finally Hearthkyn, 43%. Struggling a little bit. But I think that they might do better here. In fact, I'm just gonna make sure I've definitely looked at the right team. Because I think, yeah. 43%. Not a huge amount of people playing them, Hearthkyn. My thoughts are, in a Deathwatch meta and in a Canoptek meta, like, those small operative teams, the judgment tokens, they become way more impactful, right? Like, you stack them quicker and better, and the crits get through a lot of their armor and that sort of stuff, and gets around just a scratch and whatever else. And maybe that's the way you take these guys down. So I think they're going to do well into elites. are there teams at the top of the meta that they're not going to like facing? Like, is Blades of Khaine problematic? Are these elven teams going to be problematic, particularly when they're just focusing on doing like killing rather than anything else, potentially? So I guess it's kind of like one of those questions, right, where in a meta of Fellgor, Sanctifiers, Heirotek, Blades of Khaine, and Deathwatch and Canoptek, do you think Hearthkyn is going to do well or not? So if you're a Hearthkyn player, what's your thoughts? Looking at the new tac ops, I think they've got some play. I think Jetpack Man can be an envoy, or he can be a plant banner dude. If there's like a super tall tower, you want to try and get out there and plant banner, you kind of then waste him, I guess, for a little bit. Another option is retrieval. I think could be really good for this team. With being able to like say, yep, you're -1 objective control on that objective, and then increase their APL and just yeet themselves across the board to potentially grab these objectives, and having access to free pickups. Again, like I think that's pretty good. So I think they've got some options there with security and recon. Not the best. Like they're not like, it's not like I'm going to auto score 6 points, but I think they're in an okay spot, and I think they're going to do fairly decent. So yeah, 43% parking salvages. Those are the ones I wanted to pull out. I think that'll be useful just to do it. So that is the end of the wider meta win rates. That's hard. It's easy for me to say, hard for you to say. That's been that. So what's your guys' thoughts on that? Is that like what you're expecting? If you're interested in seeing these stats, by the way, in the description below is a link to pretentiousplastic.ops.com where Smiles, Lies and Gunfire has put together all this data. So I will continue to use his amazing font of data and knowledge, because it's really helpful, and you guys can go on there and check it out to your heart's content to see what's going on, because he's got like over 4,000 games on there now for this quarter, and you can see how all the stats are building and constantly shifting, and it's just useful to be able to talk about that meta discussion. So thank you to him for putting that together. I'm shamelessly stealing it to present it to you, and hopefully add a bit of discussion on top of it to make it worthwhile. So what's your guys' thoughts? How do we help Goremongers, Exaction and Hearthkyn out? How do we maybe slow down Canoptek Circle, Deathwatch, Blades of Khaine, Heirotek, Sanctifiers and Fellgor? Or do you think that with the new edition, the new tac ops, all it's going to change anyway? Thoughts? I guess we'll see. Now, if you are not a subscriber, this is where you can leave, and you can end your evening or day or week by signing off, because you haven't subscribed to the channel and therefore you don't want the tactical tip. But if you do want the tactical tip, you can just hit the subscribe button, click it, like, comment, all that sort of stuff, help out the channel, make us help grow and do that sort of thing. And then you too can hear this amazing tactical benefit that I have for people going forwards. So with all that said, let's get into it. So tactical tip for this episode is cover lines for shooting are your movement lines for movement. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. A lot of people I see, when they put a model down, they want to kind of like be 45 degrees off to be able to get the maximum movement potential that they can do. But then also they want to be able to be 90 degrees to be able to achieve the cover line they want, right? So the point being is you can't have both. So and this is going to come into a Patreon prior to question discussion in a second. But there's like a trade-off here, right? So the point is, if you're trying to figure out how you can move around an obstacle, you need to have a discussion with your opponent when you place your model, and you got to say, hey, cover line for this guy is 90 degrees. Or you say at the start of the game, like, my default assumption is all my models are going to have a 90 degree cover line unless we talk about it otherwise. And that then means, though, right, that your first movement is always going to be essentially 1 inch to your right, 90 out, right? And you can't have an angle on that, because if you have an angle, you're going to clip the cover and you have to pay a climb or a traverse or something like this, and therefore you're losing 2 inches. So you don't want to do that. You have to do it to the right, so your base can pass through. So you lose an inch, you lose a threat distance because you are safer with your cover line, right? But the sort of the tactical tip that I'm going to sort of sew this into is that is great a lot of the time, but sometimes you sort of know that you're going to be in a scenario where your opponent can potentially move within 2 inches of you anyway, and therefore the additional like distance is better for you. So I see this quite a lot, like on the edge of boards, essentially, where you can angle the barricade in a certain way. So like, it's like this, whatever, and you place your model like this, and your cover line is then like up here, but this is the edge of the board, right? So if they can breach this, they're going to be within 2 inches of you anyway. So that's fine, because over here they can't place off of the table, and therefore your model that's over here is safe. I hope that visual representation is helpful. If you're listening to this and that probably wasn't helpful. But essentially, you can angle it so your cover line goes off the table, and therefore the only way for them to be able to get onto that cover line is to be within 2 inches anyway, and therefore at that point you can have a more aggressive positioning of your model so that your first inch of movement is, say, 60 degrees, 70 degrees, whatever it needs to be, in the correct direction rather than 90 degrees in the wrong direction. So ideally, most of the time, this looks like about 45 degrees. You get like a sort of ½ inch forwards, but you could potentially make it a little bit better than that, depending upon where the cover line is. That needs an agreement with your opponent when you place the model, because otherwise you're all going to be staring at lasers and complaining and arguing for ages. Whereas if you just say, hey, do you agree this is what it is, you have to get within 2 inches or be on this line. To be on this line, you have to be within 2 inches anyway. Content, but this is how it's going to move out and do this. Cool. I'm going to throw in a freebie, and it's an equipment-based sort of freebie, which is something not equipment for the game. It is for the game, but it's like how you do things as a tool, I guess. A tool freebie. If you go on GG's prints on Etsy and get yourself some steppers, you can just place and leave a stepper on the cover line, right? And that will be your first inch of movement. And then when you want to come back and remeasure the cover line and figure it out later on, if the stepper is still there, it saves you any debate and hassle. And he sells the steppers in packs of 10. You can get your own. They're correct for your base size. You're good to go. You have accurate measurement. You know exactly what's happening. It's going to save any debate. It's going to speed up your game. And if you want to make it even better, you can get 10% off by using the code TPT10. There you go. Nice and easy. So tactical tip. Your cover lines for shooting are your movement lines for movement and how you get around obstacles and terrain. And you can use that to your advantage to get a bit more distance or be safer. And if you use a stepper, you can make it so that you can place one and know exactly where you agreed that line to be with your opponent to avoid any arguments going forwards. Or if a TO comes over, they can quickly rule it without having to have any debate. Hopefully that is useful. Cool, that was a tactical tip. Thank you to the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed and you just listened to that, then click that subscribe bell, because you just you cheated me out of a subscription. That's mean. So you took the tactical tip for free. Don't be a thief. Okay, finally, we're into the Patreon priority questions. So essentially what this is on the Patreon, I put up a post once a week. I let people put their questions in there, and I choose one of the questions that I think is going to be the best for this episode based on what I've been talking about, or what I want to talk about. And then hopefully it makes sense and we can have a bit of discussion, and it means that I give something back to the patrons for having supported me so much. So if you want to have one of these questions answered, you too can join the Patreon. The link's in the description below. You can go on there, you can post your question, and you can say, hey, Ryan, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And hopefully I'll choose it. And I'll do this one now. So there seem to be a lot of non-team rule gotchas at high level. Some that, and then from my inexpert point of view, veer into rules lawyering. Is it actually fun to play at high levels, or just a bunch of lawyers? No offense to lawyers. I do realise everything is on a spectrum. For example, taking a barricade, using it to a slow blocker route is not immediately obvious from the rules, but clearly fair and good gameplay and adds to the game. Claiming that it has a non-zero width and therefore you can position to be just outside of 1 for the far side, so no engagement, but just within 1 from the near side, so cover, conceal, feels not rules as intended, but is commonly accepted fine. Jumping off ladders, halfway up ITC doors and repositioning shenanigans feels unfair the first time you see it, and more like an exploit. To what extent are high-level games decided by these types of things? Is it good for the game, and is it fun? It says, I really appreciate the videos you've done on things like charge blocking to get us beginners up to speed on these. So, yes, I believe it is fun, and I believe it is fun because of trade-offs, right? So, I agree with you. The first time you encounter it, you're going to like, WTF, like, hang on a second. So I can't charge this guy and he's going to be obscured and in cover and gets to choose which one of those he wants to apply. So he's going to be in cover until I hit him with a seat gun, and then he's going to be obscured and all this sort of stuff. And you're like, hey, that's not fair. And I totally get it, right? Like, when you're not used to it, it can feel like you're kind of getting gotcha'd. Hence why I made this channel, right? Like, hence why I'm trying to give people tactical tips. I don't want you to feel gotcha'd. And part of what I think is really important on the tabletop is me explaining these things to you in real time so that you know what I'm doing, right? So I will say to you, hey, I'm going to move this guy an inch back from this barricade so that you can't then therefore charge. And to be honest, in the setting up barricade step, I've probably explained to you anyway. So I'll say like, hey, I'm going to place this barricade here. My intent is I can place a 32mm base behind it to be within 1 inch and be on the objective. So you can't charge me from your side, but I can gain the benefit of cover. And you're going to go, cool, sounds good. And you're thinking like, now there's no way that the model can be charged. That's not true, right? Like, he can still be charged, you just have to get around the barricade, which means you need more movement potential, right? And so it's a trade-off, right? What I'm saying is I've placed this barricade in such a way that it's going to make it harder, not impossible, but harder for you to charge me. And maybe you want to now have a shooting model paired into that, because that's just as easy. And also note that based on the position of that model, my cover line is going to be more exposed for shooting on the flanks. So potentially, I'm now easier to be shot. So it's a trade-off, right? I'm now easier to be shot, but I'm harder to be charged. Well, when we're doing sequential placing of equipment, one of the things that I often do is I'm going to look, right, and go, okay, so you've placed your barricade there and you've declared your intent, and I'm happy with that. Now it's time for me to place my barricade where I want to place it. And I'm going to choose now to place my barricade in such a way that I can charge from the safety of my barricade based on the threat line, the cover lines for shooting, and are the same for movement lines for movement, like in such a way that with my 8-inch charge, I'm now going to get around the back of your barricade. And so I can charge you. And so now it's a trade-off, right? So it's like, do you want to be safe from the obvious charge? Do you want to now have the shooting lines? Like, or do you want to have like this stuff? So going that to and from is like this back and forth is what's really engaging about the game, right? So the first time you place a barricade, it's so important to know what you're doing with it. And that's why I think declaring your intent is important, because it gives your opponent opportunity to then counterplay, right? Unless they didn't take barricades. And that's a choice, right? That's a decision that they've made. And now they're going to have to try and figure out a solution to it. So, yes, I do think it's fun, right? There is always a pro and a con to any movement that you do in the game. Like, the game is all movement based generally, with a bit of dice as well, right? And what I'm trying to do is use my movement to restrict what you can achieve with your dice and your movement. Another great example is ITD doors, right? So if you position yourself so you're just within 1 inch of like your side, but outside of 1 inch of their side, you know that they can't charge you from hatch to hatch. Now they can move, dash, and hatchway fight you, because they can touch that, and because you're 1 inch back, you're not going to be in engagement range, so they're going to be able to potentially hatchway fight someone else. So now you've got, again, a trade-off. Maybe you've now got someone else that's within 2 inches that isn't your melee model, and is going to be more exposed. The other trade-off is, well, you're now 1 inch further back, so you can't, from where you are, charge their hatchway, right? So, like, unless you have more movement and you have, like, Goremongers or something, but, like, you now don't have that potential to be able to get across and get to them. Another thing as a shooting team, right, is like you can do that and you can be 1 inch back, or you can be on it and then they can try and open the hatchway to be in engagement range and try and catch you. But by being further away, you can't do that. But potentially by doing that, you have worse cover lines, right? So, like, my point is that it's all trade-off based, it's all decision based, and that's what I think makes the game interesting, right? It's like knowing when to change up and go, actually, I need the extra inch of movement here to reach this objective or this thing. So therefore, I'm going to move my model less safe. So I'm going to take more risk of my model in real time, because I need this advantage, or I need this movement to do a thing, and therefore I need to be in here. Like, I need my cover line to be exposed so that I can reach this person that I want to kill next turn. And this is why, like, I was talking to Jason, I play quite a lot of him, he's been playing Vespid at the moment. And one of the reasons why we think Vespid, like, aren't S tier broken insanely good at the moment is because they are predictable in that respect, right? Because they're always, I move 6 and shoot you within 2, essentially. So you have like a really set threat range, which makes that trade-off easier to calculate. And so, like, a lot of these things, in my opinion, is all coming down to, like, can I predict what you're going to do with your model, where it's going to go, and how that's going to affect my model? Like, do I think that you're going to be in the room, or do I think you're going to want to stage on your hatchway? If you stage in your hatchway, maybe by me being 1 inch back, I'm safe. Or maybe, but if I know you want to stage your hatchway, I actually want to be on my hatchway, so I can then charge your hatchway if you leave it open. But if I'm 1 inch back, I'm safe from being charged, but I'm, at risk from being shot from the room. So this is what I'm trying to get at. It's like there's always a counter, and you can't have it all the way, like, all the time. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So I do think it's fun. I really enjoy the games. it's definitely more fun when your opponent is explaining to you it in real time, rather than just being like, I'm going to move here. And you're like, okay, cool. I'll charge you. And he says, no, you can't do that. Like, that's not fun, right? What you want to have is someone that says, hey man, I'm moving to this point here. This is my new threat range, basically. I'm 1 inch back from the door, so you can't charge me from your side. I can claim either obscurity or cover, and that's my optimal position. But I now can't reach whatever it is that I want to reach. So this is kind of like how I think the game is designed. And a lot of the time, if you talk to your opponent through these things, then they're going to be absolutely fine with it, because they do have solutions to it. They just might not be optimal solutions. And that's how you try and, I think, solve the game. It's like, right, because you've done that, I'm now going to do this, which means that I threaten the cover line that you didn't think I could, or I take risk and go with this, or I'm going to APL buff my guys so I can move, dash, and hatchway fight you, because that's a counter to this thing. But that means I need my comms in a position to threaten that, right? So like, this is the high level game that I think is really interesting, is knowing that these are options within a tool set and figuring out when to use what. So that was hopefully an answer to that question. Hopefully it was helpful. I'm going to keep trying to put out the tactical tips. I owe you patrons a few things. I owe you a crit op video, the tac ops videos with the tips. I'll put those on the channel hopefully either this week or next week. I'll see how much time I get this week, so you guys get access to those before anyone else. So ideally, I want them so that the patrons get them before they go to their first tournament. That's my plan. So and then everyone else can get them after their first tournament. It pays to be a patron, right? So that's it. So let me know what you thought about that. Was there any other questions that you guys created during that you thought would be nice to be answered, or anything that you think I should be adding to this format, things you want to see, or anything like this? I'm trying to keep it fairly light, don't want to get too crazy on details, but I also want to try and make this as informative and helpful as possible going forward. So, and that was the Metawatch for the 8th of September. Hope it's been useful. I'll catch you all next week. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, and drop a comment about how much you learned this episode. All right, take it easy. See you next time.
That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Just drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.